Hello everyone, Finn and Flask here. So today I'm going to be doing a bit of a spotlight episode on my 1863 Remington Zouave rifle, and here it is. So this rifle goes by a lot of different names. It's been known as the Remington Model 1863 contract rifle. It's been known as the 1862. It's been known as the Zouave. There's a lot of different names for this rifle, and it's quite an interesting story, and we'll get into the story. This rifle was a 58 cal and was designed to shoot mini balls, but you can also shoot it with round balls and patched round balls. So, like I alluded to before, it is known by many names. So some people call it the 1862, some people call it the 1863 contract rifle, well, 1863 Remington contract rifle, and some people just call it the Remington Zouave. In military documentation, it is known as a Harper's Ferry pattern musket. I've seen some conflicting information about how many were made. Some people say around 10,000 were made, and some people say around 12,000 were made. There's a fair amount of conflicting information about this rifle, and it's a little bit of a mystery for many people. So, there are rumors that it saw service, but generally speaking, people do not believe it saw service during the war. Since there's a bit of controversy about this rifle, and if it ever saw service during the war, we'll talk a little bit about why some people think it served during the war, and we'll talk about some of the reasons why people think it did not serve during the war. So, we'll start off with why some people think that it did serve during the war. Okay, so apparently there's some documentation floating around that a reserve unit from New Jersey was issued these. And that's just about all I could find about that there's just some fleeting documentation somewhere that they were issued to a reserve unit from New Jersey. Besides the fact that there's some fleeting documentary evidence of it being issued to a reserve unit, there was also some archaeological record of these things being dug out from battlefields from the Petersburg campaign. And some people suspect that basically a reserve unit was brought in for that campaign, and they were issued these because they were basically units that weren't ever going to see action, and they wanted to keep the 1861 Springfield as a main weapon of frontline combat units. So units that were not going to probably get deployed were issued these just so they had something. Although they found some of these when they were digging, there's no documentary evidence on why they were even there. So some people suspect that a reserve unit had these issued to them and were brought on campaign with them. And others believe that maybe Remington sold some, surplus weapons or made some for the civilian market, and they made their way down there, maybe to some militias or something to that effect. This may be the reason why I see two different numbers for the manufacturer. I see some saying 12,000 were manufactured and some saying 10,000 were manufactured. The discrepancy in these numbers is going to lead me to the next point of why people think they were not actually issued. Okay, because 10,000 were in the Waterville arsenal in 1866. Okay, and 9,999 were sold to Behrman in 1901. And the purchase of these firearms by Behrman in 1901 seems to be where the name 1863 Remington contract rifle came from. For my opinion on if this rifle was issued, I don't really think it was, but there are some fleeting examples of these things having seen service, so it's not really important to me anyways, because that's not really the reason why I purchased this firearm anyways. So now I'm going to take you out into the field and I'm going to show you shooting this for the first time. When I first purchased this, I did not have any mini balls, so I had some 570 round balls and some patches, and I shot it with some patched round ball. Here we go. To begin, I'm going to put 60 grain. I think I did 60 grains to give it a shot for the first one. This is 2F GoX, real black powder. Pouring it down. Although a proper loading would be a mini ball, I'm loading with a 5.70 round ball and a .015 pre-lube patch. Let's go check out the group. That looks pretty good to me. I got one flyer, but that was my first shot. It actually hung fire a little bit for the first one. I did pop a cap to clear it, but let's go for another 3. Maybe I'll bump it up to 80 grains. I'll go for 3 more rounds. I did bump it up to 80 grains of 2F GoX. Probably these 2. So I think those 2 were there. Although this rifle looks similar to most Civil War era muskets, it is purpose-built for this particular rifle. Unlike the Springfield Model 1861, this rifle has a patch box. The lock seems to be similar to most military-style locks of the era. From what I understand, the originals had a different shaped mainspring than the 1861. I am unsure if this reproduction has the same mainspring as originals, or if it's just a knockoff of the 1861 lock. Now that you've seen it firing, I'll talk a little bit about this reproduction and other modern reproductions available. So this one right here was made by a company named Ronson Italia, and I really have not seen much about this company anywhere else besides this particular rifle right here in my hands. I also know that a company named Zouave makes them, and I see them, those are the most common ones that I've seen. Besides the Zouave rifles, there is also kits made available by the company Traditions. Now you may be asking yourself the same question I was asking myself, is why do reproductions of these even exist? Because they weren't really available during the war. Reenactors don't really need them because they were not really issued and stuff. So from what I've managed to piece together is that basically when people started shooting muzzleloaders recreationally, say in the 50s and 60s, the only long arms that were available were originals, and since these were surplused out to that Bannerman guy, they were available, and I think the price of these weapons at that point in time was around $20 a piece. So it made sense for people to get one of these at that point in time. And then I think Basically, because people were shooting them already, they just started reproducing them, and that's why they exist. And there's also like some controversy over why do they even become named Zouave. My little pet theory is they needed to come up with some kind of name to avoid copyright when they were selling these things as reproductions. When I first got this, I didn't have any mini balls, so I was just shooting round balls. And now I'll take you to the field to where I finally got some mini balls from one of my viewers. He gave me a few, and I'll show you that video right now. So I'm going to be doing three rounds of 3. One of my other friends, he gave me a suggestion on where to start for doing a load build out for this. So he said on one of his rifles that he uses minis on, he starts at 45 grains of 3F. So I'm going to try 45 grains of 3F, then I'm going to do 50, then I'm going to do 55 to see which one gives me the best group. I hope you enjoy the video. So I'm going to start my load with 45 grains. I'm pouring it right down the barrel. And here's my Mini, the hollow bottom. I didn't have any of the harder lubes that would probably normally go in the grooves, so I just added boar butter. I'm going to pop that in here. I'm going to push it down right to the powder. And then we'll give it a go. That's a pretty nice group right there. The fire is only about, I don't know, 6 inches away. So I upped it up to 50 grains. Okay, so I got 2 here, and who knows where the other one went. Probably over here somewhere. But about 4 inches apart. That's not too bad. All right, so I upped it up to 55 grains of 3F. I stuffed a couple sticks in these too, but it definitely seems like it likes these 55 grains much better. So the 55 grains with these minis, I'm going to actually edit in what size these minis are because I don't know offhand, so I'm probably just going to put a little line underneath with the size at the beginning. And I was shooting this probably around 40 yards, so I'm pretty pleased with this because not only was the 55 grains a tighter group, it was also closer to the real point of aim I had, because I was aiming dead center on it, and they were only like maybe 3 inches high of dead center, so I'm pretty pleased with this grouping. So what do I actually think about this rifle? I think it's actually a pretty nice rifle, and I've enjoyed shooting it every time I've gone out. And I think it will be a good rifle for me for deer hunting. I've taken it deer hunting with me a few times, but I've never actually shot anything with it. But it's a nice large bore, and maybe one day I'll go up and go see my cousin in Alaska and maybe go after caribou with him. Well, her husband, he's a big hunter. But I think this would be a good rifle for going for a large game. If you appreciate this video, please like and subscribe. It would be very nice. and also share it with your friends. I also have a second channel, which is for fly fishing. And if you're interested in that kind of stuff, go over there, check it out. It's Fin and Flask Fly Fishing. If you just put in your search bar Fin and Flask, it'll probably come up as Fin and Flask and Fin and Flask Fly Fishing. If you like that kind of stuff, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe there too. Thank you very much for watching. Have a nice day.